Hi, I'm Joe St. Henry, and this is Inside Lake Orion Schools. This month, we're going to be talking to two more of our outstanding educators at Lake Orion. We have Jillian Knapp, the school psychologist at Blanche Sims Elementary, as well as the head of Lake Orion's Early Literacy Intervention Program. And we also have Francie Robertson, fourth grade teacher at Pine Tree Elementary, and a recent recipient of the President's Award of Excellence for Mathematics Instruction. Later on in the show, we're going to be talking to Jennifer Goethals, principal at Blanche Sims Elementary, and one of the founders of the highly successful Blessings in a Backpack program in Lake Orion. Ladies, thanks for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Great,
Yes,
great. Jillian, let's start with you. How did their early literacy intervention program start at Lake Orion?
Okay, it actually began back in 2012, and it was a great collaboration between our general education curriculum staff, our special education staff, and a variety of different individuals that kind of specialize in literacy, at-risk learners. And so myself and Tammy Oberly, who's a district teacher consultant, were given the honor of kind of co-leading this initiative. And so it consisted of this variety of individuals. We ended up hiring an individual reading interventionist for each building that worked primarily with kindergartners. And basically we followed what is known as just a strong response to intervention model. So we highly trained these interventionists in the 5 areas of reading, research-based reading strategies and interventions. And their primary role was to really collaborate in their buildings with the kindergarten staff, their building principal, their school psychologist, and other learning support staff to ensure that every kindergartner was getting exactly what they needed and targeted in early literacy.
Okay, great. How has the program grown over the last couple of years?
So we started off with just the kindergarten, and we had such great success our first year. Over 80% of our kindergartners our first year were meeting or exceeding the expectation. And in individual reading early literacy skills, anywhere from 85 to 99% of the students were meeting those benchmarks.
Those are great numbers.
Yeah, so we expanded the program into the first grade year, and the district was able to develop some funding to do the same type of model at the first grade level. So again, we hired 7 more interventionists that were in each building that targeted first graders and followed that similar response to intervention model.
Okay, great. Now, is it my understanding that you're expanding this into the second grade now?
That's correct. This year we actually received grant money to do a similar program at the second grade level, and we were really excited because just last week we found out that we also have grant money to expand it into the third grade as well.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah.
That is great news. Now, I know this program is award-winning. You know, you've won accolades at the county level, at the state level, if I'm not mistaken, with School Board Association and so forth. And most recently, earlier this summer, you won an award from the International Literacy Association.
That's correct.
That's quite an honor on an even bigger scale.
Yes.
You know, what was that like, receiving that award?
So Tammy Oberly, my co-leader, and I were very fortunate to be able to go to Boston. We were able to attend the conference and many breakout sessions. We also had the honor of presenting this program at a poster breakout session, so other districts from across the country and across the world were able to see what type of things we were implementing here in Lake Orion, and then we were honored to accept the award on behalf of Lake Orion schools.
So you mentioned that other districts are emulating and copying this program. Here in Oakland County is...
That's correct, yes.
And that's got to be pretty gratifying as well, that this program can be shared amongst students all over the area and the state of Michigan.
Yeah, it's not a boxed program or something you purchase. It's just really using data to guide instruction, ensuring that you're following the students and making sure we're meeting all their needs. So we've met with many districts in Oakland County and actually across the state. And then through that International Literacy Association, the Michigan board has been contacting us to try to help other districts across the state as well.
Oh, that's great. So tell me, how important is the foundation in reading and learning overall, in your opinion?
It's just the most important thing. We really found that in the past, students came to school and we often waited too long to realize that they were behind. And by putting those interventions in place too late, the students were missing out. We really thought that at the kindergarten level, let's put all our apples in one basket and really start day one of school assessing students, and if they had any type of missing skill, to teach it right then and there. Students' brains develop very quickly, and at that early age, 4 to 6, is when their brain is most open to absorbing those early literacy skills such as phonological awareness and phonics.
So this is an example of a very specialized individual approach to learning, where you're working with each individual student and what their reading needs are at any given time.
That's correct. Each student, we collect data starting the first month of school, and the team collaborates on each individual student. So students could get a variety of different types of support, from being pulled out of the classroom for maybe 10 to 15 minutes to work on an isolated skill, to the interventionist pushing in, working with the teacher to allow for smaller group instruction. We have a wonderful reader's workshop model in Lake Orion, and that extra person being in the room allows for extra conferring, each day and each week. Great. So really, we've tailored it to each student to see what they need. And with the continuous monitoring of their progress, we're able to make changes, very fluidity in the groupings and the changes. We don't have a student in the program forever. They might work on one skill, and then they're back in the classroom. They might get push-in support, and then maybe next month they're a little behind in a new skill, and then we start over at that time.
All right, great. So I'm assuming you're an avid reader yourself.
Yes, definitely.
What are you reading right now at home?
I'm actually reading a new book called, blanked on the name. I'm blanking on it.
Okay, that's fine, but you enjoy reading. How many books, how often do you read? How many books do you read a year?
I probably read 3 or 4 books in the summer, but I will be honest, during the school year, it gets a little slower because we are busy.
Right, okay, great,
Thank you.
Thanks. Francie, now let's talk a little bit about the award you won this summer. So this is the President's Award of Excellence for Mathematics Instruction at the elementary level.
Correct.
Correct, okay, great. Let's see here. How did you decide to become an elementary school teacher to begin with?
Well, that's a funny story. I actually have a degree in zoology, and so I started out at Michigan State for pre-vet and went into zoology. And I actually wanted to do zoo programs and create curriculum for zoo programs for children. And I needed a teaching certificate, and I needed at least 2 years of teaching experience. So I continued my education at Michigan State after I got my zoology degree, and got my teaching certificate, got hired right away in Lake Orion in 2005, and I have not left. So I love teaching everything. I especially like science and math, but I love teaching everything.
So have you always liked math, even when you were a student yourself?
No. No, I have not.
Okay.
I really struggled with math when I was a kid. I had many tears. I didn't understand things. I was good at memorizing, but memorizing doesn't mean you're going to retain that information. Even my now husband can tell you I had many tears with him in college when I was doing business calc.
Wow.
But it took one professor at Michigan State that was teaching a math class on the conceptual side of math. And ever since then, I have worked very hard to understand the conceptual side to all the math concepts that I'm teaching, and I just love it. I love the kids doing that kind of stuff.
All right, so it sounds like a little empathy here and understanding what your students are going
Oh,
through.
yes.
With math, you can directly relate to it.
Oh, I can directly relate to it, and they hear all my stories. They know that I had cried. They know that in math now sometimes there are things that I don't get. The other day we were doing subtraction facts and multiplication facts and things, and I told them, I said, sometimes I still count on my fingers. But I do it efficiently, and I do it quickly. And so there are things I still struggle with that other teachers might consider, oh, you still count on your fingers? Well, so every once in a while I have to, use my touch point or use that. And my kids understand that, and I think it helps.
What makes a good math teacher at the elementary level in your opinion?
I would say allowing your students to have a voice. Really, they're the ones learning the math, and we are there as teachers to facilitate their learning and to encourage them to come out with their own voice and their own ideas and their own strategies. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned as a math educator, is that's what's most important.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit more about this award you won. So my understanding is you went to Washington, D.C. earlier this month?
I did. Well,
Or was
it was actually September.
In September,
I found out
okay.
August 12th, and we flew out September 8th.
All right.
Yeah, 8th, 7th.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about your trip to Washington, D.C. and what that was all about.
Okay, so the National Science Foundation is who does this award. It's a presidential award, but the National Science Foundation is the one who sponsors it. And so we flew out, my husband and I were able to fly out there on September 7th. And there was, a meet and greet and a dinner at the National Zoo. And then that Thursday, I was in a lot of breakout sessions and conferences with speakers from the White House. Unfortunately, President Obama was out of town, so we didn't get to meet him. But the award ceremony was at the Dar Constitutional Hall in D.C. And, it was with 213 winners, K-12. They honored both of our cohorts. And then the next day we got to tour the White House. And that was pretty much the trip.
Much worthy recognition. So you had a chance to meet a couple hundred other people teachers from around the country that also received this award. What was that like, collaborating with them and talking to them about their experiences and so forth?
It was wonderful. I mean, honestly, these are some of the top educators across the country. I mean, they came from Hawaii, Alaska, Guam. I mean, they were from everywhere. And just hearing what they're doing was wonderful. And, hearing how they're struggling too, because we talk a lot about how our districts are struggling either financially or just getting resources. And they're in the same boat too. So we were able to vent about those kinds of things, but we were also able to share resources. And so I have plenty of email addresses and phone numbers, and I've been collaborating with many of them already.
You touched on this a little bit earlier, but what are the keys to teaching math to young learners today? And maybe compared to when we were all younger and going through school, what seems to work well today?
I think a lot of it is that conceptual understanding, just taking out the different blocks and tools and letting them visualize what they're learning, not just teaching them procedure. When we were growing up, I would say a lot of it was procedure. This is how you do it. There's one way to get the answer. If you did it any other way, that's not what the teacher wanted. And now it's opened up to, okay, there's multiple ways to get to one answer. And that's what we want. We want our students to be critical thinkers and come up with different ways to solve problems, because that's what they need in the real world. They don't need just one way to get one answer and that's it. But I think it's frustrating for people like me sometimes that aren't teachers, or my age, I guess, because that's not the way we were taught. And so I get a lot of the parents who, I wasn't taught that way, I don't understand this. And I have to say, okay, open your mind a little bit. It's hard, but I know your child can get it. And one way is not the only way. So they might not like a way I teach, a strategy I teach, but then they like something else, and that's perfectly fine. So they just experiment with a bunch of strategies, and they find the one that's efficient for them.
Right. Okay. So you still have a passion for zoology?
I do. Someday, I love going to zoos and seeing the animals and teaching my students about that, and that's one of my passions. I love science, so it is funny to some of my family members that I just won a presidential award in math teaching when I never really was that big into math.
Right.
And so I love both of them, so I try to incorporate both as much as I can.
Well, I think it's a great honor to have the President's Award. Lake Orion's lucky enough to have both of you as educators here in our community, and I'm sure everybody looks forward to seeing even greater things from you in the future. Next, we're going to be talking to Jennifer Goethals, a principal at Blanche Sims Elementary, talking about the Blessings in the Backpack program here in Lake Orion, which was started in 2013. We're now going to show a clip of the first packing day that took place earlier this month, where volunteers put together packages with 471,000 pounds of food for our students.
On the morning of Wednesday, September 28th, volunteers from Blessings in a Backpack gathered at the CERC building in Lake Orion for the first packing event of the school year. Thanks to donations from a generous community, the volunteers filled bags with food that will be delivered to hungry children in every elementary school and middle school in the district.
Today we're receiving our largest delivery to date for Blessings in a Backpack. We have 4,706 pounds of food today, and that's enough to pack 450 backpacks. We are speculating to serve 400 children every week, every weekend in the Lake Orion district this school year.
We have 2 different menus for the school system, and we do that just to kind of give the kids a little bit, different look from a food standpoint. And how we do it is we send home letters before we start this year, and they all have to volunteer and say, hey, this is the need that we have. Included with that would be any allergies that they may have. So we may have, peach or peanuts, obviously a big one, shellfish, whatever it is. We take that into consideration and pack accordingly as well.
The new school year brings about some new changes. Previously, volunteers packed and delivered food on a weekly basis. During the current school year, bags will be packed once a month, then 2 weeks' worth of food will be delivered to the schools every 2 weeks. Students will continue to receive food every week.
We are excited about this new way we're packing. This is our first time we're doing this today, and we've had great volunteers in the past who have come and helped us all, and we'll be looking forward to having more volunteers as we work out the system.
It was also announced that the Blessings program will expand into the high school, but on a smaller scale. Organizers will be asking for donations of specific food items that will stock a food pantry at the high school.
So we're calling it Feed the Need, and what we're going to do is we're going to have specific items that will be listed on our website so that when different organizations or people want to contact us, these are specific items that they can purchase or have a food drive with these specific items. And then we will provide a food pantry at the high school level, and it's kind of going to be just a need basis. It's not going to be organized where we pack and send food home with the high school students like we do with our elementary and middle school students. They will just have a place to go and know that if they are in need of some extra nutrition, that it will be available for them.
Any monetary donations will continue to go to the program at the elementary and middle schools. Organizers will post their needs for the high school food pantry on their website. For more information or to make a donation, visit blessingsinthebackpack@lakeorion.org.
Hi, we're back with Jennifer Goethals, principal at Blanche Sims and one of the founders of Blessings in a Backpack, along with Diane Danaskis, the former principal at Pine Tree Elementary. For people that are not aware of what Blessings in a Backpack is, this charity organization was founded in 2013, and it was designed to help underprivileged, at-risk kids in our community who may otherwise go hungry during the weekends. It actually started, if I'm not mistaken, at just a couple of the elementary schools, and about 3 years ago, and now it's in all of the buildings.
Yes, we have programs in all the buildings. All 7 elementaries have been going for a while, and then we've added programs at the middle school and something a little bit unique at the high school recently, more of a food pantry where students can go either get food for during the school day or even to take home with them, and trying to do something a little unique at the high school level. And we also are adding the Early Childhood Center in November.
Okay, great, great. We live in Lake Orion. This is a really nice community. Some people may be surprised that there are children in our community who go hungry. Can you give our audience a feel for just how many kids in our community may not have enough to eat on the weekends?
Sure. Well, I think the numbers a while back were about 1,000 students, I think, in Lake Orion that were receiving free reduced lunch. So that means that the government has found their income level to be in the poverty range. So families in that income range sometimes struggle to pay bills or to buy food, and we felt like if we could help with this one piece, that maybe they could not have to worry about that piece or have a little bit of extra for the kids. When we first founded the program, families were coming to us and saying, is there anywhere that could help us with food? Or and so we would use Gene Money, and we would get our PTOs to help us get gift cards and gather food for these families. But those were just the ones who were telling us about it. And so Diane and I started looking into Blessings in a Backpack, and it was a very large undertaking. And so we kind of just put it out there for the community and said, come to an information meeting, and the community rallied, and we had a great first showing, and we haven't looked back.
So do you accept food items from individuals as well as grocery stores and other organizations? How does it work? Can you give me a feel for
Sure.
exactly how this program works?
Well, there's a national organization, and so we're underneath that national organization. And so they have partnered with Meyer, and they require us to have 2 years of funding in the bank before they would let us start, because basically they don't want you to run out of money and then not be able to continue to feed kids. So that was the big part of getting started, was to start to fundraise to have enough money in the bank to get started, which was amazing. The community rallied around this program. So then what happens is we buy our food through Meyer at a very discounted cost. And there's a menu that the national organization provides for us so that they buy it in bulk in the state of Michigan. And so we get it at a very discounted rate. So we go to Meyer every month and we pick up pallets of food that are on our menu for the month, and then we bring them to the CERC building where we then unpackage them and pack for the month.
Okay, and what kind of food items are we talking about?
Well, we have sometimes there's soup in there, juice boxes, granola bars, mac and cheese, tuna, sometimes peanut butter. They really try to have some protein and things that are, better can sustain kids for a little bit longer. Mostly, all non-perishable, sometimes raisins and things of that sort.
And how many kids are you estimating that you'll be helping this school year?
Last year we fed about 330 kids a week. And we're adding the CERC building and a little bit of uniqueness at the high school, so probably almost 400, my guess, a week.
Wow. You mentioned Meyer, and I know that earlier this year the GM Foundation also provided you with a large grant. I think it was, how much was it? About $10,000?
Maybe $10,000, yeah.
$10,000. How important is corporate support of this program for what you do in Lake Orion?
Well, it's huge. Now we keep going back to the same people and asking for money every year, and so at some point sometimes people have other charities they want to give to, and so that having those grant dollars really helps us to not have to worry so much, to fundraise and not have to be worried about feeding kids, but it's just have a little bit more padding and be able to try like the high school program and some other things that we're adding to the program this year.
Okay, great. You do other things as well to raise money for the Blessings in a Backpack Lake Orion. You tell us a little bit about Trivia Night.
Well, Trivia Night started a few years ago, and it is a humongous event that sells out every year. We do it in January, and we were trying to do something different. We were trying to do something that didn't cost $100 for people to come, something that was attainable for all people, parents and community members. And so we kicked off Trivia Night. Angela Snyder is our fundraising chair. And so we buy tables, like the Blanche Sim staff, we get a table together and our spouses come, and all the schools are represented there usually, and it's just a fun night. We have dinner and we play trivia, which we're not that great at, but it's fun. And then we started, like the last couple of years, people have just been like, I'll donate $100, and all of a sudden we have these donations coming in above and beyond the ticket sales and things that have raised, just way more than we've ever dreamed. So it's been a great event.
Did you expect this charity to grow and be as impactful as it's become in just 3 short years?
No, and Diane and I, educators are not good fundraisers. We're just not, it's not our strengths. And so this community with Kellie McDonald and Angela Snyder are our co-chairs. And the national organization said educators can't be the fundraisers. This has to be a community endeavor, not a school endeavor. And so when we had that meeting, we talked about that. This can't be Blanche Sims or Pine Tree or Carpenter trying to start this program. It has to be a community-based program. And those 2 women have taken it under their wing and talked to their contacts and people they know and have really made it what it is. And we appreciate them supporting Lake Orion schools and kids.
Great. So, we saw in the video that played just a few minutes ago, the first pack that took place earlier this month. 471,000 pounds of food were packed that day. That's a huge number. Obviously, you could always use more help. Sure. More volunteers. How do people get involved in Blessings in a Backpack?
Well, we have a great Facebook page that's Blessings in a Backpack Lake Orion. You can always email me too, and I can get you the right contact. Jillian Nolan is our chair for volunteers, and Brigitte McQuiston, who's on our school board. They help with the the volunteers. So basically we find out if people want to help pack, do they want to help drive the truck, do they want to help with fundraising, and then we try to hook them up with what their strengths and preference would be.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for joining us today. It was
Thanks for
really,
having me.
really interesting.
Thank you.
I want to thank Jillian, Francie, and Jennifer for joining us today. And I also wanted to mention that the book that Jillian is reading, and she forgot the name of earlier, is called The Energy Bus. She highly recommends it, and the entire staff at her school is actually reading it right now. To learn more about Lake Orion Community Schools, please visit our website, or you can friend us on Facebook. Until next month, this is Joe St. Henry from Inside Lake Orion Schools. Have a great day.